This is The Wow Effect, the podcast for women entrepreneurs who are scaling big. I'm Mallory Steele, and every episode expect honest conversations, actionable insights, and stories that make you say, wow. What happens when burnout leaves you with one choice? Bet on yourself. In today's episode of The Wow Effect, Alana, founder of Cosmopolitan Academy, shares how a $1,000 credit card gamble and a decision to choose her daughter changed everything, taking her from nonstop hustle to a multi-location automated beauty empire. We talk fear, momentum, micro goals, hiring for character, and the shift from chasing money to changing lives. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, stuck, or stretched too thin, this episode will remind you what's possible when you stop trying to be perfect and start being brave. Welcome to the Wow Effect podcast. Alana, I'm so excited that you're here to do this conversation with me. I'm truly blessed to call you a friend and somebody who I believe is a trusted soundboard and a brain trust that I can do strategic bouncing off of too. So thank you for joining us on the Wow Effect today.
Thank you, Mallory, for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So why don't we jump right into it? You have such a phenomenal story, and I know you hate that I share that you are so great at public speaking because you don't think you are, but I do believe you are. But you do have such a beautiful story. So why don't you kick us off and just share like what inspired you to jump into this entrepreneurship journey? How did that all start?
Well, in a nutshell, the short version of the story is I worked a 9-to-5 that wasn't really a 9-to-5. The hours were incredibly long. I was dropping my daughter off to school in the morning at 7:30 in the morning to do my commute. And then I wasn't able to pick her up with my commute as well after working 8-9-hour days until 7:30 at night. So honestly, after about 3 years of doing this, I was working as an executive assistant. I was, thinking like, what am I actually making? Because I feel like all my money is going towards gas and daycare. Like, really, what am I actually making and sacrificing? And when I broke it down, I was barely cutting even, which is why I couldn't get ahead, which is why I was completely burnt out. And so in a nutshell, I ended up in entrepreneurship because I really had nothing to lose. I was already going bankrupt. I was already financially strained. My daughter was, I was missing out on raising my daughter. And so I just went back to my passions, which was anything in the beauty industry. I grew up in it. My mom kind of did some stuff in this industry as well. And so I had always kind of wanted to do something where I just got to make other people feel good. So this resonated. I started with just a lash course and the last $1,000 on a credit card legitimately to take the course. I was bankrupt after that. So this was make or break, but I honestly had nothing to lose. I was going to hit bankruptcy staying in my 9-to-5 anyways. And I was missing out on being a mom. So I started with nothing but my faith and a drive and a trajectory that kept me completely focused. And one step in front of the other, I got into lashes. I ended up, tripling what I made in my first year at my 9-to-5. And I worked around my daughter's schedule. And the rest is gravy from there. Just, it went from lashes into permanent makeup, into teaching, and now we're across Canada, the US. So it was really nothing much more than faith.
You have made such an incredible jump, and there's so many women who are in a position where they'd like to make the jump that you just described. I almost want to say what gave you the confidence to do it, or, we joke about, were you brave or stupid? Were we brave or stupid? And stupid enough to not know all the things we'd go through.
Exactly. Stupid enough to not know that I didn't know what I didn't know. And so it kind of eliminated a lot of the fear. So honestly, anybody who's thinking about jumping into entrepreneurship, failure is something that you're going to have to embrace. You're going to win some and you're going to lose some. As long as you're winning just 1% more than you're losing, you're still in an upward momentum. So it's okay to try and have to pivot. And fear is the enemy of progression. So ultimately, if you let fear overtake, you'll never progress. And that's just the reality. You have to, change things in your life if you want your life to change.
Isn't it amazing that you can go through so many years of, when I hear success stories, in the back of my mind, I hear about all of the challenges and the roadblocks and the failures that we had to get through to get to those levels of success. And then you take it and we can summarize it in a paragraph, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of that paragraph, if you were to expand on that, what were, some of the things that helped you to evolve so quickly over those years?
Boy, getting a mentor through and through. If I were just to follow in my own steps, I wouldn't have got here. It wasn't until I realized the power of following somebody who's already doing more than you're doing. It was like my business GPS. I got to where I was going a lot quicker the moment I understood and put my pride and my ego aside that I'm not the best, that I don't know it all, and allowed somebody who's already doing so much more than I could ever imagine and following their mindset, their trajectory, because ultimately the mindset can be put into any company.
Yeah. And so now you're in a position where you're mentoring a lot of other women in the beauty space. What are some of the challenges that you see in that space, in that industry, and why you're able to bring your magic to these women?
Oh God, I think the biggest thing, number one, I'm just so humbled that people would even take my advice. I had no business acumen when I started, right? So that in itself is just such a huge compliment. But the biggest thing, I guess, to overcome as people are looking to me is I wish I could do more, but I can't change their character. I can't change how passionate they are. And I cannot change that they're willing to do the work. I wish I could flip a switch for everybody that comes through our school. But the fact is, I can give everybody the tools. Our team as a collective, I shouldn't say the whole team. Without the whole team, we're able to, or with the whole team, we're able to give the tools for success. We can't change if people are going to follow it.
Yeah,
or put in the work. I work 16-hour day, exactly. And you know what? You have to want to almost make a difference before even accepting that you may or may not get paid in the first couple of years. While I was very lucky, I made a profit in the first year, I still took that profit and put it right back into the business. So I wasn't, just making the money to live a lifestyle that came years later.
I think you just said something that may cause a couple of jaws to drop, but is super in line with reality of not making a profit in the first couple of years. How much runway do you have, and how do you have the sticking power to see it through?
So for me, I made micro goals in my first, because I didn't really understand the power of macro goals and then breaking it down into micros to hit goals a lot quicker. So in my first year, first couple of years, I had such a small goal. I look back now, I thought it was massive, but it's all I could believe at the time. It's the only thing that kept me focused, was that I needed to make in my first year what my deficit was at my other job. So after I paid for gas and I paid for daycare, what did I actually make at my other job? And that was my first goal, to make that back, but working for myself. And it was so small, I'm embarrassed to even say, but my first goal was to make like $25,000 in my first year. And without having to pay for gas and daycare, that means I cut even and I was working for myself. That kept me focused. I'm like, that I can do. Of course I can make $25,000 in my first year. And then, when I 3x'd it in my first year, and then from there, it like grew and grew and grew and grew. But it was such a small goal that I knew in my heart, without a doubt, I would be able to hit that. So I wasn't thinking about what goal I have to make 500,000 in my first year, because in my gut, that would have made me feel really bad, because I would have felt like I wasn't actually going to achieve it, even if I was saying the words. So I had to create a goal that I knew mentally I would without a doubt hit. And that's how I started. And that's what got me going. And that's what kept me, is just my first goal that I knew in my heart through and through. There was nothing that was going to stop me from making that first $25,000 in business.
You set a very realistic expectation, and then by achieving it, built yourself confidence to even, now you know what it took to get to 25. Now all you have to do is double it to get to 50.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Formula.
They
Cool.
say, you know, whatever man can bring himself to believe, he will achieve.
Yes. Yes.
So it's the believing part. And I didn't really know what that meant when I first started. And I used to set really big, massive goals. And then when I was just like, I'm going to make $5 million, and, you know, my first year, and I was like, that's not believable. I'm not actually going to make $5 million. So when I got a goal that I could bring myself to believe without a doubt that I would achieve, I did achieve it. And ever since then, every goal that I've grown upon, if I can believe it, I do achieve it every time.
So that kicked you off into your journey, and you've evolved, you've grown year over year over year. And now bring us up to speed. What's going on in business today? What does life look like for Alana today?
Well, so in Cosmopolitan Academy, we have we're just growing with courses and locations. That's our biggest trajectory. We also have a US company as well, Luxy. Same thing, growing each year. We add at least one new course and one new location as kind of the growth factor that we're putting into play right now. But honestly, it got to a point where I got a little bit bored, a little bit uninterested in what I was obsessed with this industry 15 years ago. So I went through a little bit of a lull the last year or two. And I ended up starting up into a company that's completely opposite to what I was doing. But then, you know, even dabbling in that, and I still do, and it's turning into more of like a passion that makes money. But it reminded me the passion that I have in this industry, and to get my butt back into where I belong and stay focused. So I kind of went off course for a second, and it took me a year or two, and then come back to realize I wasn't just bored. I forgot what I was doing. I forgot the lives that I was changing. I forgot where I was meant to be for a moment. And I'm learning that that's actually pretty normal as an entrepreneur, that sometimes we do have to go off course to come back into in alignment.
But you've also done a really good job of setting yourself up so your business can run without you. Like you could go off grid for a week, and what would happen?
I went off grid for 6 months. Yeah. That was because everybody says, you know, in this industry, you're trading your time for money. And traditionally, yes. However, you can build in this industry and automate so much at this point that even if you're the technician, with time, you can learn how to hire other technicians. With time and reputation and putting your clients first, you'll build a company that even in a service-based industry, you can kind of sit back a little bit when you need to. But automations are so, I'm not techie. I'm not techie at all. The girls will tell you I am dumb. I do lashes for a living, all right? I don't do technology. But as I'm learning, I don't have to do technology anymore to be able to implement automations. So I didn't realize that when I first started. So I was still doing everything manually, still very old school, still very 1990s. And over the last 3 years, we've automated so much. Honestly, me or the girls could work from anywhere at this point.
And that's something I hear a lot, those two statements. I'm not techie and I'm not a numbers person. Would you say you're a numbers person?
Not even. No. I still don't even know my times tables. No. And
So
let me tell you, I can track KPIs. I can track stats now. I can track if we're on the right trajectory, if we slipped off for a month, if we slipped off for a week. And same with the girls. The whole teams were the same. Like, we can jump in right away and see, you know, who's slipping based on numbers, including myself, and who's, you know, excelling, and where we need more training, where we need more coming together as a community, things like that. And we didn't know how to do that a few years ago. That's for sure.
Alana, how did you make that transition from, you could still say I'm not a numbers person, I'm not a techie, but you have a company that embraces numbers and tech?
Because I'm not the one who has to build it. I just have to follow. I just have to follow whatever technology, let's say, I don't know, we're tracking new leads. I don't have to know anything. I just have to know how to follow the lead sequence, and you fill in the blanks now. It's just plug and play. So as long as you're courageous enough to try something new and start investigating, you'll find that it is way easier than you would have ever thought. I don't even know how to edit a video. And now we've just learned how to have AI take over our whole social media. And they're doing videos, they're doing, stories, they're doing reels, they're doing TikToks, they're doing LinkedIn, like everything. And, so even places that you don't really know, you don't have to know it all. You do not have to know it all. You just have to be courageous enough to look into your options. It will take you from there.
Did you ever have to transition from being the doer and like letting go of pieces of control to then being a master delegator?
I am a control freak like you would not believe. Yeah, when I first started, my employee turnover was so high because I thought that being the head of the company meant that you had to be like bossy and you had to implement and dictate, and then nothing was ever done as good as you could do it. I got the right people in the right seats. And now, honestly, I seek their approval on things. I go to them because I just let them be the expert in what they're sitting in this company to do. And I trust that wholeheartedly. But yeah, that took a couple of years because I'm a major micromanager. I'm a major control freak. So to let go, but I couldn't do that until I truly had the right team that I trusted. I would trust them with my firstborn. So if I trust them with my kids, I'll trust them with anything in my company. That's so secondary in my life. And yeah, that was a learning curve for a control freak. But I think if you're an entrepreneur, you are a control freak. You do invest in yourself. You know what you're capable of. That's why you've taken the leap. And if you're going to invest in anything, invest in yourself. It's the only sure thing. But yeah, when I first started, I wore every hat. I was the marketing manager. I was the sales agent. I was the receptionist. I was the one doing the services. I was the one doing social media marketing. I wore every hat, and I thought I was so cool. Honestly, Mallory, I was on a plane every week. I was making money. I was answering the phones. I was the face of the company. I did it all. I wore that with like a badge of honor until I burnt the hell out of myself. And I realized that is not a badge of honor. I created nothing more than a job that I worked more hours and more of a slave because I thought I needed to do it all. And that's when I started, that was in my first 3 to 4 years. And that's when I started to hire and learn that process and allow people to do what they're good at so that I could focus on solely what I was good at, what it fed my soul.
So you're describing a lot of entrepreneurs as they make that shift. And, we have some of our go-getters who are now transitioning into making their first and second hires, starting to build out their team. Do you have any guidance for them in terms of which hat to delegate first, or how to make sure your hire is a good hire in the beginning to save from some of those hire pains?
Yeah. So that's kind of a 3-point answer. Number one, I never hire based on somebody's resume. We can fib the resume so easily. Also, I can teach a technique. I can teach an admin. I can teach that part. I cannot change somebody's character. So number one, if they're not part of the culture with their character, we don't have space for them in the company because it just kind of snowballs throughout the whole office. When there's one person that's just not in the same mindset, energy that we're in. So I hire for character, number one. The second is I learned of a, what's it called? I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it's a quiz, but it's not a quiz. It is so scientifically developed, and it helps you to determine if somebody who's actually applied for a certain role has the right personality to fulfill that role. It doesn't mean that they're not incredible. But if you're not sales oriented, you don't have that thought process, you're more admin, give me a checklist and I'll check it off, then I don't want to put somebody in a sales position that's more of a checklist person, because I'm just setting that person up for failure as well as the company. So it's not even about me. It's about having the right people in the right roles that complement their personalities and who they are deep rooted. And so it's something matrix, and I can't think of the word. I'm going to have to send you an email. You're going to have to edit it in underneath what the name of this
buried
is.
in my head somewhere too. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can't think of what it's called either. We'll put
And
it
I
in
used it for a few things. And you know what? I even did a cultural shift at one point. I was in this mastermind and we did it on everybody in the company. And we realized that, and they even said to me at one point, you know, this girl's sitting in this seat and she is stressed out. I had no idea. And I went back and I'm like, are you feeling stressed out? And she's like, I hate what I do here. I love working here. I hate doing social media. I'm not creative. I'm not. And sure enough, like we moved her in the seat. She excelled. She was more analytical. She wasn't creative. So we put her into Google Ads. She flourished, but we've since lost her to nursing. So bless her heart, she is a checklist person through and through, but to put her into a creative role where she had to think of, so we've used it even to do cultural shifts and move people from seats that they weren't meant to be in, and fill seats that, you know, that somebody was better suited. And it was phenomenal. So there's different tools out there. It's not just about the resume. It's not just about character. It's about putting the right people in the right seats to move the vision forward.
Especially today, because anyone can use AI to create their resumes, right?
They're pretty impressive these days, let me tell you.
Until they all start sounding the same. There's the other hesitation around hiring. When you make your first hire, it's almost like that mental shift of like, okay, that's money that I could be taking home. How do I justify allotting that to an extra body in my company? Did you have to go through that transition?
Yeah, so let me give an example of a hairstylist. So she was like, I can't hire somebody to do my job because people come to me. I'm a hairstylist, right? And I'm like, absolutely. You trade your time for money. That's how we think in the beginning stages. And I'm like, do you think that the people would be offended if you hired somebody to wash the hair for you and to, you know, do the blowouts, if you taught them how to do the blowouts? Or are they just coming to you and paying for the big thing, which is the highlights, the foils? She's like, no, I don't think that they'd be very offended. So I said, so you can make your $300 in the 2 hours for your foils and your blowout and this and that. Or we can double the amount of people that you put through your chair in a day, just hiring somebody at $20 an hour to do the blowouts and the rinsing, the shampoos, and sweep up after you. So yes, you could take that home, or I can double your money for about $100 a day. So you can make your $900 with your 3 clients a day, or we can give you $1,800, but you have to pay $100. You do the math. That's not girl math. That makes sense. So.
No, really, really good example. And I think enough people just don't do that type of math to realize what the potential is and how much they're not bringing home because of holding on to that little bit.
Well, we just think if we hire somebody to do the blowouts, or we hire somebody to rinse the hair, that's money out of pocket. That's an expense. No. That is not an expense. Your time is so much more valuable somewhere else if you move the little stuff that people are really not actually coming to you to wash their hair. They're coming to you because you're a professional and you're an expert in highlights, in color theory. That's why they come to you. Give the rest to somebody else. Your time is too valuable to be rinsing hair and to be blowing out the hair. That's not what they paid $300 for 2 hours for. It's just not.
I love that example. Really, really great analogy. We always say there's so much that you don't know that you don't know. Mm-hmm. Looking back, is there something you wish you knew about business before you started?
That is not something to be feared. I think I went in so afraid and so nervous instead of going in with just pure excitement. And I didn't know the power that I had in just believing in myself, I didn't know the power in that. I had no idea because I'd never really done it before. I never, I was always working paycheck to paycheck. So I had a little bit of that safety blanket, but I didn't realize the power of just ripping that safety blanket, throwing it in the garbage, and just depending on yourself. My world's just definitely gotten way better. And I've had bad years, but even in my bad years, it's still better than where I was.
I remember you sharing something in the past, and I love the way you worded it because, there's different seasonal businesses, and there's some that are more obvious than others, right? We think of the trades industry as very seasonal, but in reality, every business has a season. And recognizing, being okay with your slow months, knowing what those are, because in your busy months, you're going to be running. So to relax into those slow ones. Do you remember that conversation?
Oh, yeah. So in the early stages, if I had a slow, I was like panicked. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. This is crazy. Like nobody's coming to me. All of a sudden, everybody's canceled. And I have all these bills, and now I have this overhead. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is bad. This is really, really bad. So I wouldn't enjoy the slow month at all. I would be on pins and needles. I'd be desperate. I'd be out there, knocking on doors, trying to find another way to bring in more income. Whereas now, that it goes in ebbs and flows. So let me tell you, when you start to have a slow month, I even said to the girls, I'm like, you know what? We're having a slow week. Head out at early. Let's take advantage of this time. Let's all rest up so we're not burnt out. Rest up during the slow week because I know it's coming and it's almost Christmas time. We're about to get that rush and we're going to all need to be on. So now I'm like, okay, it's slow. You know what? Yeah, I am going to book that flight to Vegas. Yeah, I am going to put my feet up at 2:00 in the afternoon. Yeah, I am going to clock out at 2 for a whole week and not feel bad about it because then next month I'm ready for the rush and I know it's coming. I'm not afraid anymore that this is the end of my company because we're having a slow month, a slow year even, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, and come full circle, you obviously tracked your data every year and every month over the years to be able to look back and compare and say, this is what's coming, right?
Yeah.
Proactive.
Yeah.
There's so many women in entrepreneurship who also sacrifice their well-being. They're taking care of themselves is the first thing to go. And then when they burn out or they're on the way to burn out, it's the first thing to come back. And then it's like they've created their own roller coaster.
Yeah.
Have you created a consistent schedule so that you maintain obviously your beauty and your wellness and your self-care along with the ride?
I used to make it secondary to work if I could fit it in. If not, everything of mine got canceled. Now I cancel work before I cancel my self-care. And that might sound selfish, but I can tell you I am much more productive when I feel good, when I'm healthy, when I'm eating right, when I'm working out, and when I'm keeping up on my own, when I look in the mirror and I don't have, my hair hasn't been done in 6 months, whatever the case may be. I am more productive when I take better care of myself. So now work will get canceled before my own stuff because I know how important it is to take care of yourself for the well-being of your company as well. If you're burnt out and you're just uninterested and unmotivated and you feel like garbage, that's gonna just snowball in every area, including your business.
Yeah. Did you ever go through a period where you said yes to everything and you had to put boundaries in place to figure out what you said yes to and what you said no to?
Yeah, I did. I remember just
that bring up memories
that comes to mind was I would take my daughter out of school to fly to other provinces to teach classes, and she'd sit at the back of the class doing tiny tattoos on practice pads while she should have been in school. And you know what? I'm going to have CAS calling me for this one. But the fact is I said no to nothing. And my poor daughter had to be dragged around in the early stages until I realized, you know what? I can't say yes to it all. I pre-planned the whole year in advance now, worked around, and I work my family schedule around what's already time blocked. So I never run into those issues, but I also am able to manage it all within a respectable way for everybody that's in my life, not just me.
Yeah. Well, I think you provided her a great experience, and it's almost like, she saw what you were doing. She saw what you were doing to make it work. And there were definitely like the grinding, the hustle days that are not really any longer. Like they no longer exist. And it's so much fun starting new ventures. So you mentioned earlier that you've jumped over to this whole other thing that has nothing to do with the beauty industry, but how much fun was it to take everything you've learned over the years and apply it to something completely different?
It made everything so easy. And I'm like, wait a second. I haven't just learned the beauty industry. I've learned tools to rinse and repeat in any industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any other growing pains that you went through that if you were your younger self, would you give yourself some different guidance? Or was there any guidance, that you wish you had received?
Not really, to be honest, Mallory. I feel so blessed. Even in the hustle days, I took pride in it. It served its purpose. It set me up to really actually understand what I wanted, what I didn't want, what to keep on my plate and what to move off my plate. So even the hustle days that were absolutely insane. And when I say insane, I mean like girls would text me and they would work like at bars and they'd be like, I get off at midnight. Can you do my lashes? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I'm like lashing until 1 a.m. Like it was ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. Like you offer a service, girls will come. That is for sure in this industry. But if it weren't for that, I don't think I would truly have known what I wanted my life to look like, because I wouldn't have gotten to a point of having to force myself into really deciding what's important and what's not. And how do I want to, okay, so now I own a business, but how do I want to turn it into a legacy? How do I want to turn it into something that's maintainable and is a lifestyle? I wasn't focused on a lifestyle. I was focused on just making the first, goal financially. And now that's very secondary. I'd rather live in a box and keep doing what I'm doing than, ever go back to.
So did your why evolve over the years then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My first why was to be able to afford to be a mom and pay my bills. That was my first why. And then I realized I could do that. And then my why turned into making more money, looking really cool on Instagram, and showing every flight I was on and every country I was in and how cool I was. That became my why for a while. If I'm being completely honest, I thought it was so cool. And then I burnt out on that. And then my why became, wait a second, I completely went overboard for 3 years. My lifestyle was insane. But then I realized I had a few girls circle back and they're like, you changed my life. Like this course wasn't just a course. You legitimately changed my life. I'm out of a bad relationship, but I couldn't afford to get out of it before because I couldn't stand on my own 2 feet. And that's when the why became about changing lives, not selling courses. And that's even evolved now into, we're just bringing back, Cosmopolitan Gives Back initiative, which is with the women's shelters, that women that they feel that would be a good candidate for this industry. We teach them for free. We set them up. Our areola tattooing, we'll sell that course. We'll make money on the course, but we'll never, ever do that service for a cost to the women who need it. You can't fake if you need it or not. So that's something that we can give back as well. So now it's so much more, it's more about changing lives than it is about the money. Because you know what, we've had some bad years where we didn't make money, but we still changed lives. And that to me meant more than anything. Yeah.
I love that you shared that. And you really do impact a lot of lives. And you do it in the way you show up too. You show confidence. And just being on here, sharing your story, I wish more people heard your story, because I want women to believe that it's possible and there's hope and there's joy on the other side of the hustle and the grind and quitting what you thought was stability, right?
Yeah, honestly, even in the hustle, even in the early days, there was so much pride and joy. When my phone rang, honestly, Mallory, I'd be like drive my car onto the side of the road, put it in park really quick so I could answer my phone and sound like I'm like at work, even though I'm still completely, my schedule is open. Do you have a 3 o'clock? Oh, let me check my schedule. Give me one moment, please. Like, I loved everything about it. Everything. I was like, oh my God, there's people calling me. I'm going to get paid to do this service. Like everything was so freaking exciting. Even in the early stages, the grind was exciting because you're like, wow, okay, I'm doing it.
Yeah. No, I think it's a part of the journey. I think that's a really important point. I'm just thinking, so you've done the grind, you've built the life that you wanted to design, you've designed your dream life, you're living it. What's next for you?
Oh, I guess just
Tough question.
maintaining growth year over year so that we're not just sitting stagnant and that we're actively finding new ways to improve other people's lives, and to give more support to our students so that they can also find a place. We really feel like the right course should feel more like a mentorship than a transaction. And so for us, what's coming for us is to just zero in on how to serve people on a broader scale. That's it. The rest will just kind of fall into place.
Amazing. There's so many women who get in their own way, and I hear you talk about a lot about serving others, right? Your why has evolved over the years. We're serving others, but you also stay in a state often of the strategic thinking, right? You're constantly thinking and talking about strategy and marketing and what's next, and how do we evolve and how do we do better and how do we better serve. For any woman who is maybe sabotaging their own success because they're stuck in perfectionism or imposter syndrome or fear of failure or fear of success, any guidance in that area of transitioning from all of those, thoughts that can keep you stuck versus the strategic thinking?
Yeah. So I guess to come to that, those who are waiting for the perfection, waiting for the right moment to be 100% everything planned out, those are excuses. Number one, because your fear is still bigger than your passion and your confidence, and that's okay. We've all sat there. Don't let yourself sit there for very long. It is scientifically proven that the less perfect something is, the more successful it will be. You just have to start, and that's actually proven. The more imperfect your ads even, the more perfect the results. So those waiting for perfection, I mean, the more polished we make things, even in our own company that's been around for 15 years, the less results we get. So it's kind of a thing of the past to think we have to be perfect, that we can't just start. If you saw my first, podcast that I've ever done compared to now, you just have to start. You have to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And until you understand the power of that, it's okay to not feel ready. It's okay to not have the whole year rolled out in your mind, but start. Stop with the excuses. It's not that it's not perfect. It's that you are still too fearful. There's no place for that. If you want to do it, do it.
Okay, so is there, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think you've shared a lot of gold, a lot of genuine insights. Is there anything I missed? If for the entrepreneur who is thinking about taking the jump, or they've made maybe their first little bit of money, they've been in business for a couple of years, but they've been staying stuck and they need to get to their 6 and 7 figures. Any guidance that I've missed that you would like to share with these women?
To get to their first 6 figures?
Yeah, we've got women climbing to their first 6 figures, and we've got women climbing from 6 to 7 figures.
Be vulnerable. Reach out to people who have already done it. There's people in the industry, and you'd be surprised if they're, we're all pride driven, we're all ego driven, we're human. So you'd be surprised that when you call somebody and say, hey, you're already doing what I want to do. Would you mind, having lunch? Would you mind sharing some knowledge? What do you think? You've already done what I want to do. They already feel really, I guess just having that phone call is humbling, and we would want to give. Those who have already done it, we want to give the knowledge. We want to, and if you're courageous enough to ask for help. I don't think many people would say no. Use them as your business GPS. If you know your next goal and you're just not sure what the next step is to achieve it, ask somebody who's already done it.
Alana, thank you for joining us today. Is there anywhere where women can check out what you're doing? Is there a website or LinkedIn or anything that you can share?
Yeah, our website is cosmopolitanacademy.com, and any links to our socials, things like that, just to make it easy, it's all right there.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all the gold. Appreciate you.
Love you, Mallory.
Love you too. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow the show so you don't miss an episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you're going to love what we have coming up. If you found value in what you heard, share it with a friend who might need it too. Until next time, keep building your dream life and your dream business.